Who's here? Who's yet? Who's yet out there? Hey, everybody. John here with Sasha, who never likes being held. Never likes being held. We're going to start in a minute. Everybody obviously say where you're from. That's our little welcome we always like to do. Oh, get this off. Let me get your collar off. There you go. Now we got to say hi to the TikTok folks, too. You got to say hi to the TikTok folks. 1 second. I know you hate me picking you up. I know you do. I know you do. Okay, here. Come here a second. Okay, that's the way you like to sit. There we go. All right. Hey, everybody on YouTube. TikTok about to come on. There you go. See, this way she doesn't mind being held. Tiffany, you're the first one on TikTok. Welcome. This is Sasha. This is the only way I can carry her that she doesn't get upset. Otherwise, getting picked up is not a happy thing. Introduce where you're all from, if you would. Oh, okay, I'll put you. Okay. Put your collar back in. I'll put you down. Come here. Come here. All right. We are very demanding here. So usually we take a couple minutes just to have folks flutter in. Hey, everybody. Seattle. Latam. What is Latam? Latin America, maybe? I don't know what Latam is. Oligarchs. Norway. Lovely. Maryland. Sasha is a good puppy. Oh, there you go. Yeah, I left the door cracked so they can get in and out. As always, we will have dogs today, whether by choice or by insistence. What else we got? Norway we had. People are coming in slowly. This may be a lousy time to do this. We'll see. We'll see how today goes, and then maybe I'll try to do. Thank you for the sorting hat. Maybe I'll try to do a little later if I can tomorrow. Like I said, I just don't want to take up the evenings entirely because that tends to be mom time. But we can see. Shreveport, South Carolina. But typically we take a minute for folks to kind of, maybe I'd say the first 4 minutes, 5 minutes till about 5 after, we wait for folks just to kind of check in, say where you're from. Oh, you're from, John D's here again. Woo-woo! Ukraine has entered the building. Everybody give John D's lots of sunflower love. Sunflowers are the flower of Ukraine, the national flower. Hey, Switzerland. And we've got a new policy that the TikTokers got me going on a couple of days ago. So every time we have either a Ukrainian grace our presence, like John D, we shower them with sunflowers. Or if a Russian troll comes in, then we also shower them with sunflowers for different reasons. Because may sunflowers grow in their pockets. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Hello, Roshan? Maybe? Roshan? I'm working on it. Oh, yep. Lots of sunflowers for John Dino. That's good. Thanks, guys. Hi, Denmark. Oh, and we got the big sunflowers on TikTok, John D. So someone really splurged for you there, just so you know. Oh, guys. So, yeah, how are things going? Like I said, we'll take another 2 minutes for people to filter in, and then we'll start. As I said, this may be a bad time. It seems like which it kind of makes sense, though, because it's the middle of the day for Americans. It's tough to do, but what do you do? You know, it's hard to find a good time during the week. But I may try to start a little bit later. Good sunflowers. Otherwise, things are good here. Just trying to get a good night's sleep in a new bed. My dog, you may hear in the background, is still defending us from anyone who dare. Thank you from that. Who dare steps foot within 300 feet of my mom's place. And this is my other oversized mug that I got at TJ Maxx years ago, and it's like super duper big, and I love it. I love oversized mugs. Lovely. All right, we're about to start, guys. You know what? Actually, I'll tell you really quick, just to remind you, I still have to do the hard launch of it, but I talked to Vlad today, who is our guy in Ukraine, in southwestern Ukraine, from Kharkiv, which is the second largest city, 1.5 million people in northeastern Ukraine. Vlad has been our humanitarian aid coordinator, so to speak. We've raised about $40,000. I was going to say $40 million. We did not raise $40 million. We raised about $40,000 so far that have gone to individual families in need, and then a lot of it has gone to these volunteer centers that have sprouted up to, like sunflowers, to help provide food to people in need in the various, especially in the Kharkiv area, because Vlad's from Kharkiv, so he's got all the connections. But you've got a lot of people who either didn't leave their homes, but again, can't get food now, or a lot of people who are in the subways and other shelters because of the incessant bombing. The bombing's gotten really bad now. So, Privita Ukraini, another one. Woo-woo! Uh-oh, I think we got another Ukrainian, folks. Give them some sunflowers. This is on TikTok this time. Welcome, if that's who you are. Any case, I'll finish telling you about the fundraiser, and then we'll jump right into the news. So Vlad came up with the idea, which is a great idea, to buy a couple of used cars, which will cost 8,000 to 10,000 max, and fill them with food in Western Ukraine and then drive them across the country. He's got a couple friends who will volunteers to drive them across the country to Kharkiv, deliver, a couple thousand pounds of food or so, hopefully, but a lot of food. And at the same time, then we're going to lend the cars out or donate the cars to the local food companies who are doing the deliveries so they can use the cars to actually do deliveries around town. And if you've seen the pictures I put up, and I'll do another more formal video on this, showing you, the deliveries they're doing and that kind of stuff, but it's really neat. And a number of these guys have been, thank you for that, in production now since the war started in a lot of cities. Vlad's got the contacts in Kharkiv, and frankly, Kharkiv it's one of the cities you can still access that's in the most trouble right now because the Russians are bombing the bejesus out of it and eventually may even try to occupy it. In any case, you can find the fundraiser on TikTok. You just go to my profile, look for the beacons, the link that says beacons, click there, and the very first item is the fundraiser. Be kind. I think I don't have my microphone on. Oh my God. Sorry, TikTok. I plugged in the microphone, but of course I didn't put it on my lapel because I'm an idiot. Jeez. Is that better? Sorry. God, I'm an idiot. You know what it is? It's like when you get everything sort of getting ready to go, I have to plug in the microphones. I've got to plug in the phone. I've got to get this light on because otherwise it's too dark on this side. And you think you've jungled everything, and I will almost always forget to put the mic on my lapel. So sorry about that, TikTokers. Anyway, yeah, Be Kind has the link there. So let's dive in, guys. So today, the big news is the Russians obviously still having started their big campaign, at least as of yesterday. Zelensky had said in Ukraine that he believed that this was the beginning of the big campaign. What the U.S. is saying is it is the beginning, meaning the big campaign to take the East, right? The Russians want to take over the eastern Ukraine and annex it, basically. And what Ukrainians are saying is this is the beginning of the big campaign. What the West is saying, what Americans are saying is it's the beginning, but it's the light beginning. Like, this is not the big thing that's coming. The big thing that's coming is going to come whether in several days or several weeks. Once Russians have done a lot of artillery bombing and things, they call it shaping in the military. I was trying to get a good definition, and I frankly couldn't find one. I'll put it this way. It's the precursor to the big attack that you do. And maybe that's leveling the ground for your tanks to go through, scaring the civilians. I don't know what, but it's the precursor to the big attack. So the big attack is still coming in the East. This is the beginnings. They're still bombing everything, Kharkiv in particular, but they're also bombing the Mykolaiv region in the south near Odessa, which is interesting because there have been rumblings of late. I wrote it down. Yeah, I think I wrote it down. It'll come up later on. Let me see if I got it on here. I think I do. But basically, the intent here is Putin wants to get the East. So he wants to get this Donbass region, as it's called, wants to annex it. Then, if that goes well, he wouldn't mind moving into Kharkiv, which is the second largest city, which is just north of it's in eastern Ukraine, but it's just north of the region he's going after. Then, if he takes that, he wouldn't mind making another run at Kyiv again, the capital, which is directly west of there, northwest. And remember how they're in the south too? Like, we've got the east they're fighting for. They've got that land corridor pretty much sealed up other than the town of Mariupol. Remember, that's why Mariupol is so important. It's that land corridor in the middle on the coast. And that land corridor connects to Crimea, which is the other territory the Russians stole from the Ukrainians back in 2014. So they've got a lot of troops now in this corridor and in Crimea. The concern is they may make another run at trying to get Odessa, which is just to the west. So if you look at the map, look where the sea is below the Black Sea, below Ukraine, you're going to see Odessa on the map, really important port on the west of the coast there. So still keeping an eye on all of that. The British Ministry of Defense put out an update today that I thought was really interesting. I'm just going to read it to you as is. It's only like 3 lines, but they put out a really nice, succinct update each day about where things are. And I thought this was very interesting in terms of the war in the East. So listen to this. Russian shelling and strikes on the Donbass line of control continue to increase. So basically this 300-mile or so line, I believe, in Donbass, in eastern Ukraine. So the attacks continue to increase, with Ukrainians repelling numerous attempted advances by Russian forces. What's going on is the Russians are bombing everything. And as they're bombing everything, they're trying to sort of cut through. They're trying to have breakthroughs. So you got the Ukrainian line and the Russian line. The Russians are bombing and then trying to, break through with their forces. The Ukrainians have been doing a good job holding that back pretty much. There were 2 towns yesterday the Russians got through, but the Brits are saying the Ukrainians are still repelling numerous attempted advances. That's good. Point 2. This is where it gets interesting. Russia's ability to progress continues to be impacted by the environmental, logistical, and technical challenges that have beset them so far, combined with the resilience of the highly motivated Ukrainian armed forces. In other words, Russia is still being impacted by the logistics problem. I'd be curious what they mean by Kokla, mom's dog. Mom's dog is today. Hey! This is what you get when I have to do. I visited my mom for a month in Chicago. And hey, that's enough. This is what I get because she just decides out of the blue. Kukla. She decides out of the blue she wants attention. Sometimes it's because she wants to go on the couch and she doesn't think she can make it. Sometimes she has to go out. I took her out 2 hours. Kukla, come here. Come here. Come here. She wants love now. That's what's going on. This is cute. Come here. Okay, come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come. Hey, come here. Come here. Say hi to everybody, okay? And then maybe it'll quiet you up. Come here. Oh, my God. Come here. Very sweet dog. Definitely not the brightest dog on the planet, but one of the sweetest dogs on the planet. Her name is Kukla, which means doll in Greek. And it's also a name we use. Our quick tangent, because this is the way these broadcasts go. We get a little personal because we don't have a choice. Doll, but meaning in a word like you'd say honey, sweetie to somebody. So you'd say, Ella Kukla, like, come on, my little doll. But it's something your mom would say to you in sort of a term of endearment. So this is mom's dog, Kukla, who's the Yorkie, a Maltese Bichon, which is why she's so fluffy. She needs a haircut, but she's super sweet. It's funny. She's not the brightest, but see, now that I'm holding her, she's just like happy as can be. So, all right, I'll keep reading this while I'm holding Kukla. So, hi, thank you. So they're being impacted by the environmental, logistic, and technical challenges. So we know logistics is still causing them a problem. Remember, logistics is the issue of, can the Russians get in the food and water their troops need? Can they resupply their troops with ammunition? And can they get them the gas they need? They need diesel fuel. Depending on the she got it in the mouth. Depending on the vehicle they're using, it's either diesel fuel or gasoline. Either way, a tank, for example, needs to be refueled every day or 2. So you've got to get fuel up to your front lines. And the Ukrainians, as we saw north of Kyiv, remember that 40-mile convoy? The Ukrainians did a really good job of stopping it. So this means the Russians are still being hampered by some of the problems they had in the north. That's very good news. The final point the British Ministry Defense Intelligence group said was Russia's inability to stamp out resistance in Mariupol, which is that city in the south, I told you, that's on the sea in the middle of that land corridor the Russians want. And they've been beating it up now for 7 weeks. I mean, bombing the citizens, cutting off food and water. 90% of the town is destroyed, but there's still a core of Ukrainian fighters there that are holed up in a steel factory that was made during the Soviet times. And it is a steel factory. I don't know why you would do this in a steel factory, but a steel factory that is meant to withstand a nuclear bomb. And again, I don't know what the Soviets were thinking, but nonetheless, that's what they did. So the defenders, the Ukrainian defenders, are using the steel factory for their defense because the Russians are having a hard time getting in because it's built for a nuclear bomb. Well, the other concern with that steel factory is there are reports that up to 2,000 Ukrainian civilians have also taken refuge in there because, again, we see what the Russians do. I mean, look what they did to Bucha and other cities. So 2,000 of them may be in there as well. And the Russians have decided they just want to destroy the whole thing now. And there was intercepted chatter, meaning Russians talking sort of on their phones to each other, military talking about the fact that they're going to bomb the bejesus out of this place, but also there's concern that they're going to use Ukrainian intelligence is saying a 3-ton bomb. I am not up on my bombs, but apparently it's a horrifically strong bomb. That, I think, is it for Mariupol. Oh, I was going to say really quick. I got sucked into all of this. Before I go on, what we'll do is what we always do. And by the way, John Aravosa is here, Washington, D.C. For anybody who's just joining us, this is Kukla, mom's dog, who's enjoying just laying here. What we typically do, I'll turn this down so you can see Kukla. What we typically do is I give about a 20, 25-minute news summary, the latest news, as I've just been doing, but also why it matters, what's going on. Then we jump to the question and answer, where I will take your questions two different ways. On TikTok, there's an actual question and answer function. I think it may even say Q&A on your end, but put the questions in there because it's very hard to read them. Oh, thank you for the origami. It's hard to read them on the screen, but they're all collected in that question thing, which is nice. On TikTok, on YouTube, obviously, feel free to put them here in the comment box. Here, I'm pointing like you can see me in the comment box. And I always promise, if anybody does the super chat questions, which you pay for, because you've paid for them, which is a donation to support my work, which I appreciate, I get to that as the next topic no matter what. So I will always get to the super chat questions. The other ones, it's just a matter of time, especially, the TikTok ones. God, we always have like between 80 and 150 questions, which is amazing. Just can't get to all of them. So I appreciate that, guys. All right, jumping back in. So that was the Ministry of Defense, Mariupol. All right. This was kind of creepy too. So we're not done with Mariupol though. So the city authorities in Mariupol say that Russian forces are holding at least 20,000 residents, 20,000 citizens of Mariupol in, quote, filtration camps. Now, again, these words they come up with, you'd think somebody would be advising them going, okay, that's a creepy word. It sounds like concentration camps. Are you insane? Well, there's they've got 20,000 in a filtration camp. Another 5,000 to 7,000 residents are being held and being prepared for deportation to Russia. Now, the filtration camps, they go through, pretty much strip you down, look to see if you've got any, Nazi tattoos. Who knows what's a Nazi tattoo to the Russians? Anything that's nationalist, that's like, I love Ukraine, is considered Nazi to the Russians. So they obviously take you away if they think you're a threat. They try to conscript some of the younger men. They literally try to force them to enter the Russian armed forces. I posted a video on that the other day on my TikTok of them doing that in the East. And they otherwise try to force people to move to Russia. And if you remember, do you remember this? I put up a story about a week and a half ago from someone that had just escaped Mariupol, a Ukrainian. And he wrote this letter in Ukrainian that was translated, but very moving letter talking about getting out of the city. The Russians wouldn't let you out anywhere. Basically, the only way the Russians ever let you out is in the direction of Russia and to Russia. There's no way to get out of going anywhere else. So if you're trying to get away from the fighting, they make you go to Russia. And what the person said who had written that letter, he said that like about 10 to 15% of the people who he was with wanted to go to Russia. Like he just thought it was safer. He had a visa. It was no problem for him to go to Russia with his passport. And he just felt it was safer to go to Russia because at least there's no bombing for a few days, assuming you don't get kidnapped, right? That they don't keep you. He said 85 to 90% of everybody, of all the other refugees leaving Mariupol who he was with, had no idea what was going on. They were being forced to Russia against their will. And it was because they knew too much. Scary concept, what they're going to do with you next. All right, I won't go after the White House too much today. There are more shipments coming in as we speak from the U.S. I believe, hello. There's like 8 shipments coming in over the next day, I think, from American aid shipments, which is great. The White House did say again yesterday, and they really need to stop doing this, that, literally, they get asked about it and they fall for it every time. So the White House said again yesterday and created news, it has no plans to send U.S. troops to Ukraine. It's like, guys, okay, here's why I get upset about this. Because first of all, from the beginning, we have been telegraphing to Vladimir Putin that we are afraid of him. We are afraid of getting into war with him. We are afraid it's going to get nuclear because he's crazy. We aren't afraid of it getting nuclear because we're crazy. We don't think we're going to start a nuclear war. We think Vladimir Putin is. We are afraid of Vladimir Putin, and we are signaling that to him, and I think that is a huge mistake, because what it does is you frankly risk more of a chance of getting into a battle with him, because he looks and says, I can do almost anything, and the West is terrified of engaging me because they're afraid of nuclear war, so I'll just act like crazy Ivan, to take the term from to twist that term from Red October, but I'm just going to be crazy Vlad. And they're gonna bend over for me. Now, the one good thing I'll say about this, actually, Democratic Senator Chris Coons agreed with me. He had criticized it too and said, you sound like you're giving him permission. Basically, even though that's not your intent, that's what you're doing. Now, the final point, though, which is interesting, is I did notice this. When the White House says, thank you for that on TikTok, when Jen Psaki at the White House said, we have no plans to send troops, that was interesting, because no plans is a lot different thing than we will never send troops. We are not sending troops. No plans is what you say when you're thinking about it, right? I mean, it's acute as a lawyer. Let me just tell you, no plans is entirely different than I won't, right? I mean, let me put it in the extremes. Well, I mean, I have no plans to murder anybody, right? If I said that, you'd be like, oh, you want to go down now? You go down. All right. If I, oh, you're okay, go down. If I said that, you would be like, okay, that's creepy. What are you planning? So when the White House says no plans, that, oops, sorry, guys, that might have actually even been a change in policy. That might have been an indication that they're trying to tone it down a little, so they're not making it as clear that, oh no matter what Putin does, we would never want to go to war because we're afraid of war, right? Just interesting. I see something was happening on YouTube. So, okay, seriously, I just held you for 20 minutes. Stop. Jeez. And then my dog is in the bed next to her and getting pissed off that she's making noise. So it's like, anyway. So that was interesting from the White House. Okay, you really need to stop this, or I'm about to get my nephew to take you away. Estonia. Oh, a chart came out, which is kind of interesting, showing the amount of donations to Ukraine from Europe and America by GDP, meaning not the raw number, but how much you gave based on the size of your economy. The difference would be, for example, if I gave $100 to a charity for Ukraine, and somebody who is a blue collar worker making 20% of what I make or 15% of what I make, and they give $100, they're putting themselves out a lot more than I'm putting myself out. So I would almost say it's not that, well, it is more generous. They're being more generous than I am, because I'm giving money, but they're actually saying it would be like me giving $1,000, if they give 100. So what this chart looked at was how did it compare amongst the countries? And what they found was Estonia, far and away, way more. I mean, like 10 times more per GDP, per the size of their economy, than anybody else. Poland might have been, I shouldn't say anybody else, Poland might have been 20% of Estonia, maybe 30% of Estonia. So like Estonia was this long, Poland was maybe this, and then the rest of us were like this. US was number 5. I forget what the other guys were. Not great. Again, we've given a lot of money because our economy is big, so the numbers are very large in the aggregate. But when you look at the size of the country that's giving, it gives you more of a sense of how charitable it is, and Estonians have put themselves out way more than anybody, which is just very interesting. Oh, Sophia from Ukraine just waved in on TikTok. Everybody give her a little sunflower love. Hello, Sophia. Thank you for joining us from Ukraine. The EU, this is kind of interesting, although, I'll believe this when I see it. The European Union is discussing an oil ban. Yeah, there we go. Those are the people are putting up the sunflowers for Sophia on TikTok now. Thank you, guys. And they're doing it, Sophia, for you on YouTube as well. The European Union is looking into an oil ban, and they're trying to put something together. They're saying it could be like their coal ban, where they banned coal imports, but they're doing it over a 4-month period so that it's gradual. And they're looking at doing something similar with oil. I don't know how they're going to do it. I just don't think the Germans and everybody are there yet. So it's interesting that they're proposing this. It's good that they're proposing it. It's good that they're talking about it. I just don't see the Germans buying onto this, but who knows? It's at least good that they're talking about it. Kind of creepy video I put on TikTok today just because I can't figure out what they're up to. But the Russians occupying the southern Ukrainian town of Kherson raised a Soviet-era flag. It was a banner, like a big red banner with the hammer and sickle on it, and they raised it in the center of town. Really, really weird and really kind of messed up, and I'm not sure what they were up to, but, never a good sign. Another really weird sign, the Russians, Wall Street Journal, either the Wall Street Journal or Financial Times guy in Moscow, I forget which now. I did a video on this too, and I credit whichever one it was. The Russians in their bakeries are now putting Z's, which are the symbol of their invasion. They're putting Z's on the Easter breads that they're selling in bakeries. Easter bread. They're marking it with the symbol for their war. Easter bread. I mean, I really, Russian troops, Amber, raised it. It was really messed up. What I find really weird is there's something different about the Russians. There really is. I mean, this kind of stuff, there's always been this interesting debate as to whether Russia is a European country, and whether maybe do you cut off at Moscow and consider that part European and the rest isn't, the rest is Asian. And I've been there twice. I've been to Soviet Union in the West and then went to Russia in the Far East right after it had no longer been the Soviet Union. And it's a weird country. I don't know if they're European or not. It's weird. But this is the kind of stuff that just makes me scratch my head. You're putting war symbols. I mean, the only thing I can think of is some crazy bakery in the middle of, I don't know. I'm not going to name states and offend anybody, but the middle of some crazy land state. But it's pretty messed up. In any case, the two more little stories. And, okay, I went pretty quick today. Okay, this is good. Two more quick little things, and then we'll open up to questions. So big Russian oligarch, Oleg Tinkov, I guess he's a big financial guy, banker. Remember, the oligarchs are the guys who basically got all the money and ran away with it in Russia. He came out against the war today. Very weird. He posted something on Instagram, from what I could tell, it looked like Instagram, saying, how can we have a good army if everything else in the country is shit and smeared with nepotism and servility? 90% of Russians oppose this war. Then he went on to say, which was a little weird, that actually, I want to ask about that. Yeah. That the West needs to give Putin an out so that he can save face and exit this war. It was a little weird. I don't know what's going on. 90% of Russians do not oppose this war. There's no way. I was reading another story today about this. Far, far, far too many Russians are totally on board. Now they're doing all the solidarity with their brethren fighting and blah, blah thing. This was why I brought up sort of the larger issue of something going on with Russia. I just, it's for a bigger discussion and probably for people who have studied Russia even more than I have. But after a while, after a couple hundred years of really crappy governments, maybe the problem isn't just your governments. Maybe the problem is you. Sorry, pretty little chapstick. I just kind of feel, my entire life, practically, Russia has been run by awful people and has had awful domestic and foreign policy. Awful towards civil rights and human rights domestically and abroad. And at some point, maybe it's not just their crazy leaders. I don't know. But final thing, Malcolm Nance, if you heard. Malcolm Nance is a former U.S. military, former U.S. Navy man, was in intelligence, I think for 35 years or something, but was an intelligence guy, U.S. intelligence. And Malcolm, for the last several years, has been a commentator on NBC here, MSNBC, one of the big American networks, about everything political, Donald Trump, et cetera, but usually from a military angle, because that's Malcolm's expertise, has written a number of best-selling books about democracy and trouble and things like this. Well, Malcolm, I found out last night, I think one of you told me, one of you told me on TikTok in the comments, and I was like, get out of here. Malcolm joined the Ukrainian Foreign Legion. He is in Ukraine fighting for the Ukrainians, officially fighting for them. He did a quick spot on Joy Reid's show here in America on MSNBC. I reached out to him on Twitter privately, and he said he's fine. I told him, if we could raise money for him, he should let me know. And he said, actually, there is stuff we can raise money for. So he's going to be letting us know about that soon, which would be great, because that would be another thing. I would love to help Malcolm and his team. He's going to be in danger. He was there in his full military outfit. They were out in the woods somewhere. Yeah. So kind of amazing. Malcolm Nance with an N. But kind of amazing. Candace, thank you for that. I love the flag. So kind of amazing. Yeah. I just didn't know about it. I'm also a little worried for him because, it's a little scary. It's not a game, but he's lifelong military, so he knows it's not a game. It's still, I heard it and I was like, yikes, Malcolm. For Life GSR, thank you for that. If you meant to ask a question, feel free to post one. Otherwise, that was very generous of you, but sometimes folks post the thing and don't put in a question and it gets messed up. So feel free to just write a question as a question separately. Don't pay for it, and the moderators will help bring it to my attention. There was something that John Dees had mentioned. I want to see one of our Ukrainian friends. Oh yeah, in Energodar, he thinks the town, they put up a Lenin statue. Okay, I was wondering about that. The only reason I didn't mention it to you guys is because I couldn't get a straight. Sasha is here with me. Yes, she's just sleeping underneath the table. I couldn't get my head around what was going on with this story. In a Ukrainian city yesterday, thank you, Marcy, for that. In a Ukrainian city yesterday, the Russian troops erected a statue of Lenin. I did not see Stalin, but I saw the Lenin thing, and it was bizarre. And I mean, Lenin is the founder of the Soviet state. I mean, I will, in simple terms, say the founder of modern communism, just because it's complicated. I get it. Marx, and all that kind of stuff goes earlier. But, the bottom line is Lenin was the big leader of the Soviet Revolution, along with a couple other cohorts. So the idea of electing a statue to Lenin is just bizarre because he's really not a Russian hero. He's a Soviet hero. And specifically, to me, it made me think, this story, but also the one about them putting up the Soviet flag, made me think of the issue we have here in the States of people embracing the Confederate flag, which is the flag that was used by the South during the Civil War in the 1860s. And it's embraced today. It depends. Some people look at it as Southern pride. Some people clearly embrace it for the racism. So it depends. I mean, I'm totally believing that some people, it's just, they're proud of it and they don't appreciate how, for a lot of other people, especially Black people in this country, there's a racist connotation there because it was a war about racism, among other things, but mostly about slavery. So in any case, I see this kind of stuff and it makes me think of that. It makes me think of this weird yearning for a past that was really screwed up. But I saw that they put up, so the reason I was saying, John Dees, I wanted to bring this up because I saw you post it, was why were the Russians even, where did they get a flag from? I mean, where did they get a stupid Lenin statue from? I mean, they brought one with them? Unless the statues are being held in museums or something or somewhere. It was very strange, very weird. So I don't know what's going on with that. But anyway, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't say it only because I was, in my own mind, I kept saying, where's the statue coming from? Very weird. Let me pull up a TikTok question. There we go. We got 38 questions so far on TikTok. I don't know. Holly said, why is Russia saying the UK is going to nuke them? That was a video that I put up on TikTok of one of on the big Russian, TVs, the nightly TV show, Russia One, Russia One. The host was talking about this secret plan that Great Britain has to nuke Russia and how, they're not even going to tell America. And it was bizarre. It was absolutely bizarre. And the funny part was funny, but the weird part was even the other hosts were kind of looking at him going, huh? Like even they weren't buying into it. Even for them, it was a little too weird. The thing that is concerning is you've got way too much light talk in Russia. It started with Putin at the beginning, way too much banter about nuclear war. I mean, for a country that has always tried to claim it's for peace, it has always been for war. I mean, this is the George Orwell thing. What is it? Freedom of slavery. I forgot what he said about peace. Was it war is peace or peace is war or whatever the hell, or war is, but it's probably war is peace would make sense. They've always put out this whole thing of, they're for world peace, mir. And they've always been the most belligerent warring country of all. And on this right now, they cannot stop talking about how anxious they seem to be for nukes to be used. And part of it, frankly, thank you for that, Tyler. Part of it is they're trying to freak us out. And they've done a good job, which is the reason I brought up that Biden piece earlier about saying we're not going to send troops in. They know they freaked our guys out. And they know they've freaked out our leaders that are afraid to go to war because what if it becomes nuclear? Blah, 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 blah. Without mentioning we've got nuclear weapons too. So maybe the Russians should be having the conversation at home. What if it goes nuclear? It's no one's going to use their nukes. I mean, the tactical nukes, let's see. The small nukes, let's see. But in terms of the big nukes, nobody's using their big nukes. I mean, I think it's ridiculous. Anyway, it's very annoying. Let me pull up another question here. TikTok. Randomly select a question. I don't think so. Thank you for asking, TikTok, but I think I'd rather. Oh, I see. Lightning Q&A. Randomly choose topics to discuss. Oh, that's interesting. Now you got me curious. Let me just look here and see what that even is. Randomly select. You can switch to another question at any time. That seems a little weird. I can try. Let me just try this. So my luck is going to be something bizarre. Your favorite video? See, I knew it was going to be something bizarre. My favorite video game character. I don't have a favorite video game character. I play like Baldur's Gate and those kind of things. How does it pick to the next one? This is bizarre. All right, we'll pick another one. Favorite TikTok meme. See, these are okay questions, but these are not the military questions. All right, guys, I'm going back to the questions I pick. No offense, but we want to keep this for that's really hard. Mad asks, can we give any help for civilians in bunkers under Mariupol? They can't be reached. There were reports before, and I don't know how, but there were reports before that the Ukrainians were somehow resupplying the troops that were fighting in Mariupol, and God knows how they were resupplying them. But now the latest news I saw yesterday was everything's cut off. I mean, everything's cut off. They are surrounded by Russians on three sides, by land and by sea. You've got the Russian Navy that's cut off the sea access. You can't get anything to these people, and they can't get out because the Russians won't let them get out unless they, what was the thing yesterday I read? They were willing to let people get out if the Russians would pay them money for their homes, but they would have to renounce their Ukrainian citizenship and become Russian. And it's all this genocide stuff, basically. All right, hang on. So there's no way to help them. Oh, sorry. I was trying to hit Be Kind's question. Oop. Here we go. Let's see. Sorry about that. For life. Oh, GSR. Okay. Your question did not get in there. Good. I'm glad I asked. My question is, with it being illegal to oppose the war in Russia, I'm assuming, do you think that the numbers are inflated for those that supposedly support the war? Yes, certainly. I do not think you can believe any poll out of Russia, right? Forget it. I mean, polling in this country has gotten a little weird, right? I mean, we know our election polls and stuff have gotten kind of hinky of late the last several years. You can't do polls in Russia about anything other than what's your favorite, kind of borscht without it being off. And you certainly can't ask about politics when literally the wrong answer will get you thrown in jail. So you're right. I don't trust that. What I do trust, and what's disturbing, is there's a lot of anecdotal evidence of people who I respect, journalists and others, reaching out to their Russians abroad, reaching out to their Russian contacts, and their Russian contacts are just like, war, good. The Ukrainians are lying. People, I was seeing one report, on the news, of a guy who's in Ukraine somewhere. I think he might have been in Kharkiv, and his sister is back in Russia. And whether they're Ukrainian or Russian, I don't know what they are, but they're in the two different places. Calls the sister. Oh, thank you for that. What's Ashley? I think. Thank you for that for the galaxy, the galaxy. And he's telling the sister what's going on, and she doesn't believe him. And she's literally saying, "You've been brainwashed by them." And he's like, "I'm here. I'm getting bombed. Like, there are bombs outside my window. You're being brainwashed." I mean, it's like crazy stuff. And I told you, like, the woman today on Twitter who I follow, same thing, a prominent Russian working abroad and talking to people back home, and they're all unified for the war, and they all think it's a lie. They all think, America's the enemy. It's just, there's a lot. This is why I got into sort of that discussion earlier. I think there's, unfortunately, a lot of evidence that, Russia may be a bad place because Russian people may be part of the problem. At some point, you're a dictatorship, but at some point, when you're happy with the dictatorship and you seem to support it, especially when people do the one-on-one conversations with you and you're not actually saying, yeah, this place sucks, when it's safe to say it, there's a problem. So anywho, that's my take on that. Did I miss anybody else here? Otherwise, I feel like we're having a slow day here. I'm not the only one. I may have to switch. I think I am going to switch to a later time tomorrow. I don't want to do it later, but these afternoons aren't working for folks. We've got you guys, but it still is definitely slower. Let me pull up another regular question. We're not doing that lightning round thing ever again. Are Ukrainians running out of artillery? Good question. Not yet. Yulia asks, are Ukrainians running out of artillery? No, but there is concern that eventually they will not have enough. They need a ton of artillery. The amount the U.S. was sending, we were sending like 18 howitzer or something like that, artillery units, and 40,000 rounds of artillery. And the experts were saying, that is potentially enough for several days. And that's it. Just several days. So eventually the Ukrainians will run out. Yes. Unless we get them a hell of a lot more. And then they've still got to be expert at getting the artillery to them, because you've got the issue of logistics. Again, the problem the Russians have been having in the north. So, a lot of this stuff is going to go through Poland. It's got to come across the border. Poland's on the west of Ukraine, comes across the border, and then the Ukrainians take over and have to get it all around the country in a way that the Russians don't blow it up. So it's a lot of work involved, but yeah, they're going to need more. Daniel O'Neill, good to see you, Daniel. Is it true that Germany has ruled out cutting off Russian gas know. I know Germany's been just awful on gas and oil in general. I'd like to nominate the Crimea Bridge for a Neptune missile strike. Kokla, you're interrupting Daniel here. All right, really? She's one of those dogs too that if you talk to her, she does that. So I was scolding her for Daniel. The ears went up and she's going, Kokla, come here again then. You want me to hold you? Come here. So I'm at mom's, which means it's double dog noise and double everything else. In about 2 seconds, I'm picking her up and I'm bringing her inside. Kukla, come here. Come here. Oh, God, she's so bad. She's not even a terrier. She's even nastier than my dog. Come here. Come here. Come on. Hey. We're about to go from the wooing her stage to the throwing things at her phase. Kukla. Oh, my God, I'm just going to kill her. All right. I'm going to take her to my mom. Hold on a moment. We're taking the dog into the other room. My dog's being fine. Hers is not. You are seriously a pain in the ass. You know, get out of here. What are you doing? Come here. Oh, God. Oh, my God. You got to keep her. I'm in the middle of broadcasting. I'm still live, and she's going nuts. I took her out. I thought she needs to go out. But and I will be. Well, it's got to stay open anyway. Sasha. Oh my God. Now she's gonna bark in the other room. Sorry, guys. This is what I get for working from the mom's home office. We're never too old to work from mom's house, are we? So I don't know what the deal is with the latest on gas. I know obviously oil, forget it. Gas. The one interesting thing I read about Russian gas was you get more bang for the buck with oil. Russia gets 3 times the money from its oil sales than it does from its gas sales. So that oil is the big one to hit. And there was another reason, I forget why. I know what it was. There was also the issue of alternative suppliers of gas, I think, are going to be much more difficult to find for the Germans and for the Europeans versus oil. They could find other suppliers. That's what I had read, that it would just become, it would be much more difficult to implement a ban on gas. And again, less bang for the buck. So it'd be more difficult and you'd get, a third less of the damage to Russia in terms of the money lost. As for hitting the bridges and everything else, I don't know what's going on with that. My only guess is that, the Ukrainians have a limited amount of weapons. So they're trying not to just hit every bridge and every road coming from a Russian territory, right? I mean, Crimea is Russian occupied in the south. That's the only thing I can figure, because otherwise I would have knocked out everything from Crimea. I would have knocked out everything in the east. I would have knocked out every road I could between Russia and eastern Ukraine. But, then they've done a lot of it, but I know what you mean. It's not clear that they should be doing more, but then again, they may have a plan. They've got limited. I mean, they know what they're doing, obviously. They've done a good job, so they may just be trying to use it elsewhere. Chloe, good to see you. Talk a little bit about Russian culture in regards to your experience working with them in a professional context. They were very nice, though. How are they different in how they negotiate, make deals? Oops. Of course, she's coming back. Oh, God. That's something. I have to get my friend Marianne on here. Marianne, like Ginger. Marianne, who is brilliant at this stuff. I went to Georgetown with her. So she did the same program I did, the joint law degree, master's in foreign service, but her specialty was literally Russian law, Soviet law, and then Russian law. And she worked as a lawyer on Russian contracts and Russian deal making. One of the people she worked with was Medvedev, who we now know as one of the big Putin defenders, but at the time was considered more of a reformer. Marian's going to know that much more than I do. I was dealing with them more on a sort of diplomatic level because I was dealing with them working on Capitol Hill. So I went over, when it was the Soviet Union, I went over just on a trip, period, on a guided trip in like 1983, 1984. But then I went over when I was working in the U.S. Senate And I was treated as, the most senior American official to go to Kamchatka, apparently, since the revolution, since the Russian Revolution, or since the Soviet Revolution. And they were very nice. I mean, I didn't have to negotiate anything. One-on-one, my experience with the Russians, they are lovely people. I mean, the ones I dealt with, at least, lovely people. You get the real version, like when you go to Nice, or Monaco, and you see just these rich Russians that, with their tracksuits and the whole stereotype, nasty. But the people can be just incredibly nice. I remember running, just like a quick little story, but running into a guy, I think I told you guys, who knows who's here today to see, but we're at like a flea market of sorts. Thank you for that, Ashley. We're at a flea market of sorts in Kamchatka. Petropavlovsk is the main town there. And it's a flea market, but it's also like the nascent stock exchange, but borsa, like a bourse, but it was for farm stuff, animals and goats and equipment and stuff. It wasn't for stocks. And we met a guy because quite literally he and I looked at each other and we both went like this because we both thought we looked familiar. And he looked totally Greek. And I went up to him and I was kind of like, do you speak English, French, Spanish, Italian? Nothing. None of our languages in common. Marion, who's fluent, comes up and we're talking. And I just told her, I said, tell me, he looks like my relative. Like he looks familiar. And she goes, he just said the same thing about you. So we explained, we've never been there. Basically, this guy was from Soviet Georgia, which was fascinating, and was living in Petropavlovsk. And he's Greek. Oh, he's an ethnic Greek from Soviet Georgia, living there now with his grandmother. And maybe his grandmother was like from the Far East or something. Totally Greek looking guy. The hair, everything about this guy's Greek. Ends up, we're all talking, takes us home to meet the grandma at home, which was an amazing, nice thing to do. And it's this typical little small, Soviet apartment, even though it's 3 years later. They make tea for us. She even puts out she served us food. So they put out this, those beautiful little china that's very, for me, I would say very grandma china, these beautiful ornate painted things with tea and usually they'll do cold cuts. Like salami and things like that because they've got it always around. Bread. It was just, I don't remember. I think grandma did tea. I don't think she did. I don't think she did vodka. Usually they would ply us with vodka. But just some of the loveliest people one-on-one. It's just collectively, when it comes to democracy and human rights, I don't know. I'm going to get Marion on, though, at some point. I talked to, I think, I don't remember. I think she may have agreed to come on. She watches this a lot to see if she would come on as a guest, because I think, the details she could give you on the Russian psyche and the culture and everything else. Literally, this woman was negotiating contracts in Russian and American. Crazy. And the amount of time she went and spent a year there in grad school when we were in law school. She took off a year and went with USIA or USIS or whatever it was called at the time. And they were doing trade fairs across Russia for almost a year and meeting over regular Russian, just amazing stuff. So anyway, Chloe, that's a long way of saying, I don't think I can give you the answer. Marion can. And I'll try to get her to come on because I think it would be fascinating. I am surrounded by sassy female dogs. That is absolutely the truth. Oops. All right, make sure I didn't lose anybody here. All right, let me jump again to, questions on TikTok. Well, that's an interesting question. Rygo Sander asks on TikTok, can NATO hold the Baltic states? The Baltic states are Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. He says when. I'll say if war starts with the European Union. The thing is, there is concern. Well, there was concern before the war started. I've told this story before. I was at a book party in Washington, an event for somebody's new book coming out. And there was the former defense minister of a European country was there. And people were asking questions. I went up to him afterwards and asked him if, what the concern was about. Well, two concerns, first of all. What you're kind of hinting at there is this whole issue of the Suwalki Gap, which is basically this sort of, piece of land between Kaliningrad, which is Russian-owned land that is just north of Poland, just south of Lithuania. It's really weird because it's kind of in the middle of all the other European countries. There's a little chunk of Russia. You can find it on the map. Look for the sea right above Poland, and look on the right corner of that sea, and you're going to see Kaliningrad. And the concern is that the Russians would come from Belarus in the east, make a run. I don't know if it's 100 miles, it's not very much land, and make a run to connect Kaliningrad, which is currently surrounded by Lithuania and Poland, and steal a chunk of land, a strip from Poland and Lithuania, or Poland or Lithuania, either way, or both, steal it, and now they've got a land bridge to Belarus, which is their puppet anyway, and then to Russia. And then from there, they've now cut off the 3 Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, from NATO, and they would then potentially invade this way, but invade this way too, right? When you get to the top, I think it's Estonia on top, you're sharing borders with Russia. So very, very dangerous situation. And if they've already cut off Poland and NATO, then NATO would have to break through here to even get to the Baltics. Anyway, asking him and another woman there who was very, very intelligent, knew her stuff, not intelligent, a Russia expert, intelligent. She's a Russia expert. I was asking her about this, and basically the concern was before the war, whether we could stop it and whether we could win it back, because the concern was that Russia still is prepared for a ground war and NATO wasn't. That NATO had sort of decided Russia was no longer a threat, and instead we were going to be focusing on terrorism and the new threats of a new age, the threat in Asia, this kind of stuff, right? Now that the war has happened and the Russians have fallen on their face so flatly, I wonder if it's the same assessment from the experts. I have not seen people talking about it as much, about the threat to the Baltic states in the north, but I wonder if their assessment has changed, seeing as how bad the Russian army really is. It's got to be a better assessment than it was, I would think. Let me look here. Well, I mean, fair question, Catherine B. Catherine B asks, wouldn't pissing Putin off even more make him even more irrational decision-making and it possibly pay off in the long run? Wait, wouldn't pissing off Putin even more make him make even more irrational decisions and possibly pay off in the long run? I see where you're going. Okay. It goes both ways. Okay, I see what she's saying. She's getting into that issue of, Biden and a lot of our governments are very afraid of ticking off Vladimir Putin because if he gets angry, he could use nuclear weapons. Who knows? This kind of thing, right? And what you're arguing, which is kind of interesting, is actually not. That's a very smart argument. That is a very smart argument you're making. What Catherine's saying is, isn't sometimes pissing somebody off so they get erratic and they make bad decisions? Isn't that kind of the plan sometimes? Like, this guy's plotting a war. Don't we want him to make bad decisions? Don't we want him to be irrational and angry and making things about be nice, the phone in the background, don't we want him making bad decisions? Yes. I mean, their concern is that he's so irrational that he would consider using nuclear weapons, tactical nuclear weapons or whatever. That's their concern. I just don't buy it as much. I think he's bluffing us, personally. I just think he is. I mean, if he uses nukes, I don't know what the NATO response is going to be. It's going to have to be huge if he uses nukes. I don't know what it is, but whether we move in and we end up certainly taking over the parts of Ukraine that are not invaded yet, and we've moved NATO forces into Ukraine to at least occupy, at Ukraine's request, of course, but occupy the portions of the country not invaded yet by the Russians. But I think it's up. If he uses even small nuclear weapons, it is going to be something huge, our response, or, our leaders should be kicked out of office. And I think that's going to be the response from people. I don't think they're going to be afraid. I think they're going to be pissed off, angry. Trirobitai, someday I'll figure out how to pronounce your name. We keep hearing about more sanctions. I know, good question. What is left to sanction that matters? When we run out, then what? I guess a couple things. Oh God. First of all, energy, as we were just talking about, energy clearly is left to be sanctioned. It is the big thing. It is the big thing we should be doing and we can be doing and we're not doing. And to a degree, I appreciate why Germany and others are worried about it, because Europe gets most of their energy, or not most, but a large amount of their energy, like 25 to 40% of their energy from Russia. We get a very small percent of the oil. So, it doesn't, for us, it's easy to say, cut it all off. But it's a ridiculous amount of money. Some of the experts think within 2 months, Putin's war could be over if we were able to cut off the energy. Like, it's that big a deal. That's how much money he's getting. Okay. Now, what annoys me is that we keep hearing about more sanctions. Every time we hear about more sanctions, I'm going, other than energy, there's more sanctions that we could have done that we're not doing. Why aren't we doing them? We should be hitting him with everything we've got. The only logical reason I can imagine is, again, because some of the allies aren't on board and we have to wait for Putin to do some other horrific thing so that the allies then say, okay, we'll do that thing we didn't want to do. One example, which I can't figure a good excuse, is when the U.S. 2 weeks ago, it was almost 3 weeks ago now. It was the beginning of April 1st or 2nd or so. And the U.S. decides that all that money Russia has in U.S. banks that has been sanctioned and frozen, right? Frozen, a month ago, that Russia can no longer use it to service its debt. And a lot of us are going, on April 1st, you decided that Russia could no longer use its money to service its debt, money that's in American banks. Why wasn't that true as of March 1st? What do you mean you've been letting? So we had the sanctions for a month, we had the money frozen, but we were letting them take the money out anyway to be nice, I guess. It doesn't make sense to me. And finally we cut it off, and finally it's putting Russia at a risk of default. But why didn't we just do it right away? I don't get it. And I don't want to belabor this point, but especially if you believe, and everybody believes, and Biden believes as well, that no sanction could have prevented this war and no sanction is going to change Putin's mind, then why don't you do all the sanctions now? There's no point in doing them incrementally. The only reason you do incremental sanctions is, I gave this example the other day, it's like your parents or a parent with a kid, and the kid does something, you go, say it again and you're grounded for a week. And the kid says it again. Okay, say it again and you're grounded for a month. And you just keep going with more and more pain. And finally, the pain gets to the point that the kid's going to stop and they're going to learn a lesson, right? Well, in this case, we've already said nothing we do is going to stop him in terms of intellectually. It may stop him because he has no more money left, like the oil. But if it's not going to stop him, then why are you ratcheting up sanctions? You should just hit him with everything to start with, because there's no benefit in doing it slowly. So I don't know. I don't know what's left other than the energy as far as what really matters. It's weird. Now, one thing we could do that is significant is we could hit them with the designation as a terrorist state that's been talked about. I think people are a little more hopeful than they should be about what the U.S. will do, because there was people were saying, the U.S. is considering it. From what I heard Jen Psaki say, I think it was Jen, I read saying, we're considering all options. That's all she said. She didn't say, oh, yes, we're specifically, from what I read, that we're specifically looking into doing that. That's not what she said. We're considering all options means, sure, we'll look at it. But it doesn't mean they're doing it. Now, the one thing that is interesting in terms of why that might matter is apparently a lot of the sanctions that kick in when you've got a designation as a terrorist state, a lot of the sanctions we've already hit Russia with. So that wouldn't have a difference. What is important is you then potentially open up the frozen Russian assets to the courts, to court cases. So people could sue Russia. Ukrainian could sue Russia. Companies could sue Russia and go after the money that's been frozen as Russian assets to get in a court settlement. Whereas now, normally, sovereign states are going to be exempt. You can't sue them, this kind of stuff. The other possibility is that it lifts the immunity on Russian diplomats and they can be sued as well. The problem there is, we don't want them coming after American diplomats, so we'd have to get all of our people out of the country if we were going to do that. But we could do more. And once again, why aren't we? I don't know. Let's go another TikTok question. God, whenever I do this with you guys, I have this yearning for chocolate. I told you I've got a good chocolate brownie recipe in a mug that ends up being a very kind of a cake brownie, very good, with ice cream on top. And I do these with you, and all I want is a warm chocolate brownie with ice cream. It's like, I don't know what it is. You inspire me. Well, I'm bringing this up because it's a hard one. Why not? Elisamo says, what could Ukraine use as leverage for peace talks? Wow. Thank you for that. Whoever just threw that up. God. Realistically, right? Realistically, they need to beat Russia so badly that Russia just has to stop the war. That it comes to the point where I'm thinking Afghanistan for America or Russia, where basically you're just losing. Even if you're not losing 100%, you're losing too many men. And after a while, it just needs to end. and Ukraine is going to have to just hit so many Russian troops that Russia finally is just like, okay, we've got to end this some way. That I don't know. I mean, I really don't know, because currently, this is the problem. Currently, I don't see how Ukraine settles for anything less than 100% Russia leaves. And frankly, they ought to leave Crimea too, though that seemed to be some weird, thank you for that, Ashley. That seemed to be some weird thing where the Ukrainians were saying that maybe they could let that go for 15 years negotiated. I thought that was a little weird. But the Russians pretty much have to leave Ukrainian territory. And from the Russian perspective, they've got to win something, or Putin could just lose his job and be overthrown. If they really are spending this much money, this much weapons, losing this many men in a war that they're losing would be a disaster. So I mean, I don't know what leverage they have. Prisoners of war, maybe. Not that Putin cares if his own men die. Land, it'd be interesting. I mean, the problem is that Ukraine would need a lot more men probably, but it would be interesting if Ukraine, invaded another part of Russia in the north and said, okay, you're fighting over there, we're going to take a few of your towns. Because Russia could not let that happen. My God. I mean, that would be an even bigger, it doesn't matter how much of eastern Ukraine Russia were to invade and occupy. If Putin actually lost a couple cities, people would die, but my guess is the Americans, thank you for that. Brian, was it Brian? Yep. My guess is the Americans have told him, don't do that because he's crazy and we'll have nuclear war. But that's my guess, is that we've made it clear that we don't want him doing that. Yeah, no, true. I mean, Rob Wright says, but will it ever be too many men for Russia? Too many men lost. Remember the Winter War. They do not care for their soldiers. I mean, even more importantly, remember the Kursk. Was Kursk, I think was the name. Remember their sub that floundered and sank? And I forget how many men were on board. They all died. A number of men died immediately, but a number of them survived, were like holed up in part of the sub, but the sub sank. Holed up in part of the sub, waiting for a rescue that never came. Putin was on vacation. He didn't want to cut his vacation short, so he didn't. Mind you, this sub is now lying on the bottom of the sea, and nobody knows, not nobody knows, but they're dying, and the government's not doing anything to save them. Putin stays on vacation, comes back, still doesn't help them. They all die. 10 years later, was it the Norwegians and somebody else had a joint mission to check it out, and they finally found it, and they found the bodies and everything. I mean, horrific. But this is not somebody who cares about the lives of his own troops or anybody else's lives, as we know, but even his own troops. So it would have to be somebody else who cares about the deaths, whether it's family members, whether it's other members of the government, oligarchs, who knows? I don't know why the oligarchs would care, but no, I think this is like the first time in Afghanistan where we've got to arm Ukraine to the max so that Ukraine can win. And I think we're finally coming around to that concept that Ukraine has to win, but we still we've accepted that Ukraine has to win, Russia has to lose. I don't think we fully accepted what it means to us if Ukraine has to win and Russia has to lose in terms of the kind of aid we need to give. We are giving great amount of aid. We need to be giving a hell of a lot more from what all the experts say. And at some point, there could be too much aid, and that's an issue. Yes, logistics and everything else. But from what the experts are saying, we're not at that point yet where we're giving too much. So that's, yeah. What else we got here? Tiki-taki, Q&A, boom. UN can't give anything to Ukraine. UN doesn't do that kind of stuff. Sorry, but Johnny UK #1 asked, what other weaponry can the UN give? The UN wouldn't. They just don't do that kind of thing. And the Russians would veto it anyway. Are the sanctions making any real difference? They will. What I mean by that is we saw yesterday in the news the head of the Russian central bank. So it would be like the head of the Federal Reserve, chairman here in the States, big government bank. I don't know what else to call it, but it's kind of the bank of banks. It helps banks work and have money and all this kind of complicated stuff that even confuses me. And I've studied it, it still confuses me. But we saw the head of the central bank say that the sanctions were significant. They have only impacted the banking sector right now, the financial sector, but they were about to hit the economy overall and hit it hard. She said that practically every product made in Russia was made with foreign components. So some part of the product came from abroad, and that this was going to cause a real problem for Russia because they would either have to figure out new supply chains, new supplies, or they would have to start making the parts themselves. And it's not easy to just turn something on and say, oh, we need a widget. Let's just make widgets now, right? I mean, you need where do you get the equipment to make it from abroad, right? I mean, thank you for that. So the sanctions are starting to have an impact, but it's going to take time because it takes months to kick in. But it should. But again, this is why they were saying that nobody thought the sanctions were going to stop Putin. We're going to stop the Russians in their tracks on day one. The sanctions that might stop them in their tracks are the oil sanctions, the energy sanctions. That could be a disaster. And then the question becomes, would China kick in and help? Would China kick in and just buy a lot more Russian oil to make up for the difference, to send them more money? I mean, who knows? Who knows? Let me grab another question here. On TikTok. And we can, if you guys have it. Our Ukrainian friend he's writing. The Ukrainians are writing to each other. That's cute. I wish there was like a translation feature on here. Well, okay, that's a good point. We kind of talked a little bit, but David 6281 asks, or 628RT. Thank you, Ashley. I appreciate that. Those are always pretty. Why doesn't Ukraine attack in Russia? So why doesn't Ukraine attack Russia itself? It's a number of things. One, I don't think they have a great ability to do it. And what I mean is, I don't think they've got, the long-term weapons, or long-range weapons that can go in there. It's not like they have, they've got their cruise missiles they used on the ships. Those may have been their only 2 cruise missiles. We don't know. Also, the range of those things was like 80 miles to 120 miles, something like that. It wasn't like they were 500-mile cruise missiles or 1,000-mile cruise missiles or something, right? The bombers, I don't know if Ukraine even has bombers. If they did, I would worry about Russian air defenses once you get into Russia. They're doing a bad job on the ground in Ukraine. One would hope that Russia at least knows how to defend its own country from incoming bombers. So it's not clear what they would use. Could you send a small team in to cause hell in cities? You could. If I were Ukraine, I probably would have sent them already and said, wait and see what happens, to see if you need to do something really bad in Moscow or whatever. But if you know what I mean. But it's hard. The final point is, I would not be surprised if the U.S. government hasn't been saying, and maybe the Europeans too, as a condition of the aid we give you, first, you will not use our weapons to attack inside Russia, because Russia could perceive that as a provocation, but also that we really, really, really don't want you attacking in Russia anyway, because again, it risks this escalation, blah, blah, blah. I think it's BS, because Russia's attacking in Ukraine. Why can't Ukraine attack in Russia? But nonetheless, those are the things playing. Is other than right across the border, it's not clear what they could do. The other thing is psychologically, it wouldn't be a bad thing to go after somewhere in Russia, but militarily right now, Ukraine is fighting for its life, and it's not clear that it's not clear that the best use of its resources is doing a psychological blow at a city 500 miles away, when we really need to be stopping these tanks in eastern Russia right now, right? So if we're worried about them running out of weapons eventually, they might as well use all their weapons to stop Russia in the country rather than just freak Russia out. My guess. Although I agree with you. I feel the same way. There's a part of me that's like, come on, go get them. Boom. Ivan, hello. Or Ivan, depending. Are Ukraine able to bomb or somehow kill military on the parade on the May 9th in Moscow? Well, that's okay. Similar question, actually, to what we've been talking about. So Ivan is saying you've got the big Russian military parade on May 9th, and it's the big celebration of the end or the defeat of the Nazis, right? And this is the date that Putin has said that he wants to have the war won by then, so he can announce that once again they've beaten the Nazi. I'm trying not to use the word because of TikTok. The Enzis, they've beaten them again in Ukraine. Woo! Right. The thing is, that's what I was saying. If it were me, if I were Zelensky, I would be tempted to send small teams into Moscow and cause some hell. and one of them would be maybe attacking that parade just so the Russians don't feel safe. My guess is the Americans, like I said, have told them that you risk really pissing off Russia and them using nukes or whatever. Honestly, if Russia were to use, well, forget the big nuclear weapons, they're not gonna. If Russia were to use the small nuclear weapons, it would probably open the floodgates to the kind of help Ukraine really needs, including NATO coming in, like I said, and occupying half the country and saying, don't touch this half. So, I would never want them to use those weapons, but I'm not convinced it's in Putin's best interest to use them because of what. So in any case, my point is, I'm not sure it would backfire on the Ukrainians at all if they were to do something like that. Clearly, that's not the kind of thing they're doing. They've already done, I think they're trying to keep it strategic, right? The stuff we know of, it looks like they hit some air bases in Russia near the border. They hit the oil refinery in Belgorod. They hit from what we think they hit, the oil refinery, the ammunitions depot, we believe they hit, and they hit somewhere else across. They hit a overpass for a train coming into eastern Ukraine that the Russians are using for supplies. So they seem to be focusing a lot on important strategic targets, which means they aren't focusing as much on the psychological ones. And again, my guess is it's because they only have so many weapons, I know. Rob is not wrong. Rob says Putin's got enough of the fascists in his own country. He does. He should be going after them. Let me see this. That's an interesting question. Mary C says, do all the Russian soldiers know this is garbage by now? Basically, don't all the Russian soldiers know what's going on by now in terms of what they're doing, how the war is going? Are any of them remaining semi-innocent? Like, in other words, are they even at all innocent? Anybody who's left? I'm thinking they know better by now. That's the thing. I mean, at this point, you're at war. They're not just sending you for exercises. You also know what the war is doing because you're literally watching your brethren do these war crimes and genocide. You're seeing the dead civilians. You know very well what's going on. Obviously, it's not easy for a soldier to turn around and say no to orders, but, too bad. These guys are being ordered to commit genocide by law. They're supposed to. So I didn't have a lot of sympathy for Russian soldiers to start with because of what they're doing. And also, it's the same way I feel about the Russian public at this point. I'm like, come on. This isn't the first time that Russia has done really hideous things internationally. The Russian people support it. I mean, I'm sorry. This is just too many centuries of this stuff. At some point, they had their chance, especially in the 1990s. They had their chance in the 1990s, and they blew it by just becoming or staying a kleptocracy. So I'm a firm believer, even though I don't mean to be patronizing, but I'm a firm believer in at some point you've got to help yourself. You've got to have your own revolution, or the country's not going to change. And Russia needs to have its own revolution brought about by its own people. And if it doesn't, then it's responsible. Tyson Ann, good to see you again. Since Putin has a deadline for this war, meaning he wants the war over by May 9th, this victory day for World War II, what are the odds of Putin just going nuclear and calling it a day? Well, that's one of the concerns. I forget if it was from the U.S. or who, but saying they're a little worried that he's going to see, if he sees things not progressing, that, he would drop a few tactical nukes as a final push to at least grab some land. Thank you for that. To grab some land in the East and getting my chapstick out, to grab some land in the East and, call it a day and say, oh, okay, I got we got our land and I nuked the Nazis. How much better could I be? Boy, that's using two words I probably shouldn't use on TikTok. But how much better of a job could I do than that as your leader? Right. So maybe I think if I were Putin, the one thing that NATO has done pretty well is we've made clear that nuclear especially would be crossing a huge line. We haven't made clear what our response would be, which probably is a good thing. It can be good to leave things vague if they're left vague. If they're left vague in a we're going to do something bad, not look vague in a we're really afraid of invading because you'll go nuclear. That's the bad vague. The good vague is we've told you not to do these things. There will be serious repercussions. We've warned you. Because to me, that means we'd get a hell of a lot more involved in the war in a way Putin would not like. And he's got advisors telling him the same thing if he's willing to listen. So, but there is that risk. Yeah, no, there's the risk that he gets desperate, especially, and again, let's see, it's very interesting day by day to watch this stuff, but the Russians have not gone full force in the East yet. They've not thrown their whole might at it yet. At the same time, we're seeing the reports. I'm still seeing the generals on TV saying, and the colonels, the former American generals saying, some of them are very worried. Other ones are saying, it's not clear Russia's going to do any better here than it did in the North. It's a very mixed bag of what the analysts are saying, Let me look here. Make sure I didn't miss anything again on TikTok. Let me look on YouTube, TikTok. All right, guys, we're going to go for another 5 minutes of questions, and then we are done for today. And then I'll hang out a few minutes as always, but we are done. What else we got? My background, I actually did a video at the top of my profile. At the top of my TikTok feed by phone. You will see a video that says, "Who am I?" And that'll tell you who I am, what my background is. And in the profile, you can see a link to my LinkedIn as well. So you could always check me out there just to see, what my education and what kind of work I've done. The U.S. is waiting. There's an interesting question. I can even, is his name. It felt like a woman. I don't know why. Says, could the U.S. be waiting until the French election? Yes. Depends what we're waiting for. But we do know, for example, that, was it the EU lawyers or somebody were drafting potential ban on Russian oil and gas, and they weren't going to even submit it to EU member states to consider. And I don't know how the EU works, but they said the states would negotiate over the language. So I guess they must go back and forth in these big negotiations. They weren't even going to submit the draft language to the countries until after the French elections, April 24th, I believe, because they didn't want to influence the elections. They didn't want Le Pen, the fascist candidate, the far right candidate, to have another thing and say, oh, look, they're going to cut off our oil all because of, blah, blah, blah. So it's possible there are other things we're not doing because we're trying to sort of hold off. Thank you, Melissa. I appreciate that we're trying to hold off. It's possible. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. Which also gets us, I will say this, the other question, which is sort of interesting, because somebody asked this the other day and it got me thinking about it. It's not really clear why we talk so much about what we're doing publicly. I mean, for example, like the weapons that are going and what weapons we're sending. Why are we even sharing that? Like, why Ukraine needs to know, and Ukraine can say it's enough, but why do we have to say publicly, well, we've sent this many howitzers and this many whatevers? I don't quite get it. I feel like it's helping Russia, and I don't know. I don't get it. Unless we think we're sending so much that Russia starts to worry. Maybe that's it, but it seems a little weird to me. Mandy, thank you for that. And as always, if you had a question, feel free to post it. Yeah. Can we take all the fascist dictators in the world and dump them in Russia? Yeah. Well, they're there. It'd be nice. Send Marine Le Pen. She likes it so much she can stay there. This is the question Jay Cox asks on YouTube. How long can Ukraine hold out in the East, given the Russians pinching them from three sides? It's not quite three sides. I guess it's getting there though. Well, it is three sides once you get into the East, right? It's not all of Ukraine being pinched, but in the East, correct. You've got them kind of coming down from Kharkiv area, northeast. You've got them coming from the east, and you've got that land bridge in the south that as soon as they finish with Mariupol, they're going to take those troops in Mariupol and start moving north. So you've then got this, and this, which would create a pincer on the Ukrainian troops in the east. So that has been a big concern. Yes, it's one of the reasons why the holdout in Mariupol, thank you, Cash, for that, why the holding out in Mariupol is so important for what those troops are doing, that they basically said, we're not going to surrender, because it's making the Russians waste a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of manpower there. Let's see. I mean, at least the initial assessment by the Brits is the Russians are having the same kind of supply problems that they've had before. Who knows? Maybe no one. Let me put it this way. What I am seeing from the analysts is, and of course, maybe they don't want to say this, nobody is saying Ukraine is doomed. I am certainly seeing a number of the military analysts even saying, I'm not sure Russia can do this. Like they're not saying Russia's doomed, but they're saying publicly, it's not clear Russia can pull this off, because of all the problems Russia's been having. So, one thing that I'm hoping is that Russia is feeling so much pressure from Putin. I forgot who it was earlier that was talking about, the pressure on Putin and that he does something stupid and how stupid is sometimes good. Putin has put so much pressure or feels so much pressure on himself to win this by May 9th that he's probably I'm sure he's forcing them. He's forcing the troops to do stuff before they should. They're going to make decisions on things based on, Lord God, Lord Vader wants us to do it, or Lord Vader's going to have my head, so we're going to do it even if we're not ready, just like invading Ukraine. They didn't have enough men to invade Ukraine either, and they did. So maybe this deadline of, winning the war by May 9th is enough to also put the Russians at a disadvantage because they started the war when they weren't quite ready. I hope so. Mandy, thanks for that. All right. Was there any last little question on here? Otherwise, we're going to call it quits, guys. Yeah, if you on YouTube, lots on TikTok. I know it's been very, very TikTok question day. Always love you guys weighing in on TikTok. All right. I think I've caught up with all the, yeah. All right. I caught up with the super questions on TikTok. All right, guys, I'm going to call it quits in terms of the substance for today. It's been an hour 20. We can hang for another 10 minutes. Sasha does do well flying, and we can talk about things like that, like my dog. So typically we hang for about 10 minutes and just talk about fun stuff. People tend to like it. Usually the TikTokers, like 1,000 of you hang, which is kind of funky, I think. And actually, let me think now. As far as tomorrow, I am feeling like I wouldn't mind trying later because this still is feeling too early. We're just not getting enough. Now, I'm not convinced later is going to help the Americans anyway, but I am tempted. Let me see here. We've been doing 3 o'clock. 4. I wonder if I could do 5. I could do 5 because if I finish by 6:30, I think let's going to try for 5 p.m. Central. We'll try for that tomorrow. Actually, I want to check my. I didn't bring my. I did. Nope, I don't have my iPad. Oh well. I was going to check. Oh, I did my iPad. Let me check one thing really quick. Since we're in the thank you for the hat. I saw that. Was it Tanner? I'm not sure. I was going to check my iPad because I actually had a doctor's appointment virtually today. And made a mistake of making it for 4 p.m., which was basically the middle of us doing this. So I canceled yesterday and messaged the doctor and said, okay, I made a mistake. I have this daily appointment I have to attend. It was a little too hard to explain you guys to my doctor. But yes, I said I have a daily appointment. So I told him, let's do any other day at 5. So if he by chance says tomorrow, then tomorrow we won't. But let's see what we got here. Otherwise, yeah, I could see doing tomorrow at 5 p.m. Central Time, so as I call it, Chicago time, because that maybe puts this in a position that's a little bit better to get more Americans. Oh, it worked. Oh, it did work. Okay, good. Okay, he has not rescoped. Oh, Mandy. Oh, Mandy. Oh, Mandy worked. I thought it was my doctor. Oh, Mandy, you're in. Yay! Mandy was having a little bit of a problem getting in. She got accidentally banned. Oh, good. Okay, works. Okay. That would be good. Oh, that's perfect. Okay. It's like doing telemedicine, which I love telemedicine. I've never had that until COVID, and I'm just freaking loving it. It's so nice because, you do a doctor's appointment for half an hour online and you're done. And you don't have to prepare, you don't have to get there. You don't have to come back. You don't have to spend $20 on an Uber or Lyft. It's just awesome. So I love this. Mom has it's a landline, but it's a landline that's, those Panasonics that everybody in America owns, the wireless Panasonic devices. That's not true. The main piece is a landline phone that plugs into the wall. But I got that just because it happened to come with it, and I liked it because it was one thing. For example, it plugs into the kitchen, and that way you never lose it, right? So, and I liked that there was one phone that plugged into the wall as a phone, because the little pieces, let's face it, we lose them everywhere. And if there's an emergency, at least we know we can run to the kitchen. Assuming you don't have your cell phone, but it's a cordless, a wireless, a cordless, whatever. What did I call? I called something I was talking about taping something the other day on the TV, and you guys were laughing, or somebody commented. That's right. I mentioned taped it, some TV show, and somebody, I think somebody on TikTok jumped in and said, how did you tape it? And I wasn't sure what they were getting at. And somebody reminded me, I guess young people today don't say tape for TV shows because they don't tape it, right? We record it, but you don't tape it because we used videotape, video cassette tapes when we were younger. But it's kind of funny anyway. So wireless and cordless, whatever it's called. Oh, it's going to be 5 p.m. Central. That would be 6 p.m. Eastern. 5 p.m. Central time, US, 6 p.m. Eastern time. That should be, if it's 5 p.m. Central, that's 17, that should be 2400, am I right? 2400 UTC? If it's what, let me see if I got this right. Yeah, because UTC is 5 hours ahead of here. So 5 is 17 plus 5 is 24. No, 22. I'm an idiot. Sorry. I knew that was too high. My math is better than this. I'm just really tired, guys. 17 plus 5 is 2, 2200 UTC. Okay, that works. I used to say Paris time because I thought that was easier, but some people thought UTC was easier too. So that's how I'm doing it. Yeah, 6 Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, 22, 17 plus 5, 22, 22 UTC. And as always, the thing you can always check is I always set this up right when I finish. I set up the next day's thing on TikTok and YouTube. If you were to go to my YouTube homepage, you would literally see the latest video. It records, so you can go and watch it. And then the next thing down, it says the live to come. It tells you when it is in your time zone, which is great. And on TikTok, the same thing. Once I set it up, and I'll set it up as soon as we're done here, you can go to my profile, look at the top of the profile, scroll down, and you're going to see like just a little link. There's a link for question Q&A or whatever it is. And below it, there's my beacons link. And otherwise, you'll see a link that says like live, and it'll say tomorrow at whatever PM time, your time. So it's a nice way of doing it. As I said, one of these, actually, you know what's good too about doing it a little later? This kind of goes in the middle of the day, like 3 o'clock. And then I'm really tired afterwards, and I don't mind doing it a little later, although I don't want to stretch, but a little later because it allows me to do a little more work before, because I want to put up a few more videos, and I need to get up. I want to do a video for Vlad. Thank you for that, Helen. I want to do a video for Vlad for the new fundraiser we're doing, where we're raising the money to get the cars to transport a ton of food. I mean, a lot of food across Ukraine to Kharkiv, and then give the cars to the local groups on the ground to use to continue the food deliveries. So I did start Vampire Diaries again. For the fundraisers, like I said, you can go to my profile, go to the Beacons link in TikTok, and on that link, click the very first item is the fundraiser. So if you would donate, that would be lovely. 100% of it is going to getting these cars and these groceries. I started Vampire Diaries again. It wasn't terrible. Again, I feel like it doesn't feel like the story advances as much, but I'm trying. I finished the originals, was not very happy with the last episode. As I said, I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but only one part of the episode made sense. The other part I did not agree with because it didn't make any sense why that other part would happen. But the first part was inevitable. And I also didn't think the family, like the way the family was okay with everything, struck me as bizarre. That you're like, oh, okay. So I'll leave it at that so we don't ruin it for you guys. What else we got? Nope, the podcast. We stopped the podcast on April 1st. We'd been doing it for almost 4 years. And honestly, we retired. It was 2 times a week. Mostly, we pretty much kept it 2 times a week. Occasionally had a week off or something, but pretty much kept it that way. It just got tiring. I mean, just tiring in the sense of we were getting burned out, So the books are better. Oh, that's interesting. I may try the books at some point. It's funny. I've so gotten away from reading books, sort of in my adulthood or whatever, that I typically watch things. I've got to try the big haircut is tomorrow. It's tomorrow. Look out. I'm going to her and saying, I do like this, but it's just, actually, the funny thing too, I will say, is for whatever reason, the water in Chicago, even though it's not soft water, it's much softer than the water in DC. So whenever I come here, my hair does wonderful things. Like my hair is great when I'm in Chicago. It just behaves itself. But in DC, it doesn't. So I need a haircut that will work in DC and not just Chicago. So there. Vampire Diaries. I'm already like it. I'm starting again. So I'm like at episode 10, I think, or whatever of season 1. And it's okay. The pizza guy just tried to kill her. It's okay. But it's just, it's okay. It's okay. I'm trying again. But but I thought Originals was very good, and Legacies was good. Lighter, but still very good. And I liked, again, the plot lines and everything else. You know, a little sad at parts, I felt, with some of the characters, but yeah, Vampire Diaries just kind of got to me after a while. A water filter for your shower. Well, I don't quite understand what's doing it though, because it's the water in Chicago, in the Chicago suburbs, is Chicago water, and it's not softened water. But it reminds me of softened water, where you literally almost feel wet afterwards a little bit. You know, like your skin feels slicker, and it means your hair, if you've got, you know, wavy or curly, as my drag queen hair cutter said to me, your hair is not wavy. It's, you know, your hair is not curly. It's wavy. And I was like, okay. If your hair is wavy like mine, the thing is, mine's wavy right now. It also gets curly when it's doing other things, but if you've got like curlier hair, this water really, it helps. See, this is the part of the show where we talk about silly stuff, as we said, not the serious stuff. We're I don't know. What did Christina say? No way. No effing way. Really? So Christina on TikTok is saying, on YouTube, if you TikTokers want to check the news, that supposedly Ukraine is getting fighter jets. Very interesting. Hold on, I'm going to look and see. Nope, CNN's at a commercial. Wow, I've got to pull up our, no, that kind of news you're allowed to break. Yeah, I think it is different. I know, it's crazy, isn't it? Finding Aaron Jane, but it sounds crazy, but it really is different. And when you've got goofy curly hair like mine, something that softens it is way better. All right, let's see. Come on, guys. Come on. Remember, this is my old. At some point, I'm going to have to buy a new iPad. I'm trying to be frugal. It's a 2015 iPad, and I do love it, but my God, it's slow. Come on, kids. We're on 4. Oh, here we go. Okay. I don't know. Oh, interesting. Wait, Pentagon announces that Ukraine has recently received aircrafts. Additional aircrafts and their spare parts have been delivered to Ukraine. The Pentagon says the U.S. helped with the delivery of the additional spare parts, but did not transport the whole aircraft. Okay, this is actually kind of funny. We didn't transport the whole aircraft, like Putin's going to be less angry. This is fascinating. Yeah, this is just in 10 minutes ago. Agence France Presse says Ukraine receives fighter planes, spare parts to bolster Air Force. The Pentagon says, holy cow. Wow. I don't know that anybody has that. You're right. This is just coming out right now. And if the Pentagon is saying it, that may be the only information that they've even got, is what the Pentagon said. So there isn't even any, you know what I mean? There are no details. Holy cow. Now, this is good, actually. I will say the military editor, the defense editor at The Economist, Shashank Joshi, tweeted, there's a Reuters story out from about half hour, 45 minutes ago. U.S. President Joe Biden is expected to announce within the coming days another military aid package for Ukraine about the same size as the $800 million one announced last week. And Shashank, who's the defense editor for The Economist, says, and another one, the U.S. is making a remarkable commitment to keep Ukraine militarily solvent. So his objective as a defense editor is that this actually is pretty significant what the U.S. is doing. That's good. Germany should be truly embarrassed at the paucity of its own efforts. Woo! That's from The Economist's defense editor. Yeah, this is new news, as we say. Wow, nobody has this yet. Nobody has this yet. I'm gonna go to the New York Times. I need to do a TikTok video. Let me go to the Times. I get the Times and the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal, but I'm wondering. My guess is if the Pentagon said this, they would have at least given somebody a little more information. CNN doesn't have it yet either. That's interesting. See, this stuff is funny because it always breaks somewhere else first, and then CNN and those guys pick up with it. It's very interesting. Let me close. Let me see what it's reloading my page to give me the latest Ukraine news. I should be looking here too if anybody has any more news to throw in. That's good though. That's really good. Let's see. Come on. Biden sends more air power. That's good. Again, my little iPad, the little iPad that could. No one has the story yet. They just said AFP got it. I wonder if I'm guessing it was a Pentagon briefing. Wow. Oh, God, listen to this. Meanwhile, President Putin of Russia falsely accused Ukraine of seeking weapons of mass destruction. Oh, my God, go away. Whatever. In a televised video conference with top officials, Putin once again falsely described the government in Kyiv, led by a Jewish president, and a Jewish prime minister, I didn't know that, as being pro-Nazi and on its way to acquiring nuclear weapons. He's out of his mind. Now, what he's trying to do, again, what Putin's doing is trying to scare our own people here, because if Putin says that Ukraine wants nuclear weapons, it means he would have to use nuclear weapons first to stop Ukraine from getting nuclear weapons, right? So he's trying, but he knows that we know that that's what it's playing, one of those cute little games. So he's playing a little bit of the game of, oh, so now you think I'm going to nuke him because I think he has nukes. He wants us to think he's going to nuke him. I don't think he believes any of this is true, personally. Yeah, I'm still, okay, there's a little bit more here now from Paul McCleary, who covers defense for Politico. Pentagon press secretary said just now, Ukraine have received additional aircraft and the aircraft parts to help them get more aircraft in the air recently. Pentagon spokesman continues that the U.S. has helped with the shipment of some additional spare parts that has helped with their aircraft needs, but we have not transported the whole aircraft. So it's the same quote everyone's getting. So that's all they've got. Well, that's an interesting little thing to throw out there and not give any details on. Holy cow. Wow. Okay. Well, that's good. Yay. Good for us or good for somebody. Yeah, it's funny. It's still not on CNN. Wow, that's funny. Very funny. Well, this is a good note to end on. All right, guys. Then, yeah, like I said, I'm going to do 5 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Not 5. No, stop. That's not right. 5 p.m. Central time, 6 p.m. Eastern time, which is 2200 hours UTC. And we'll do that, and maybe that will help a little for these stragglers, since this is, although we still did pretty well with you guys today. I just worry that sometimes it's, I want to do it at a time that works for the most people, and it's not always easy, especially out here. I really don't want to do later at night because I do get tired with this, and in DC I can kind of handle it, but here I do like to kind of hang out with my mom at night, whereas during the day she knows I'm working anyway. So I figure the 5 o'clock thing could be good because I do this with you guys for an hour and a half, and then I'm with mom just as she's finishing dinner, or I make some dinner, whatever it is, but it works out well. And my allergies are still doing which I'm surprised my allergies are doing anything because it's like cold out here. Actually, the weekend's going to be 80 degrees here. It's insane. Thank you, moderators, as always. Thank you, all of you, as always. I think we're good. Yeah. So, all right. As always, I'll say bye to TikTok first, because then I like to leave it on for a minute because you guys, apparently you're like half a minute or a minute behind me. So whenever I hang up on TikTok, it's always in the middle of a sentence because I think I've said good. Somebody warned me. I think I said goodbye, but I didn't really say goodbye. So I'm saying goodbye, but then in another minute or so, I'll turn your TikToks off. YouTubers, thank you as always. The mighty YouTubers. I think we're good. Okay, yeah. So stick for tomorrow. That's really interesting about the planes. God, now I'm dying to see the news on that. And of course, I'm dying for my chocolate, but I'm going to wait until after dinner because if I eat it now, then I won't be hungry for dinner. And I'm at mom's. Or if I was at home in DC, I'd be like, chocolate for dinner. No problem. All right, guys. YouTube, I'm going to hang up on you guys tomorrow. Like I said, 5 p.m. and Central Time, Chicago. And the rest of YouTube. See you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye, guys. All right. YouTube.